I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Jake, and I'm just an ordinary guy living in a suburban neighborhood with my wife, Sarah. We've been married for 6 years, and on the surface, everything seemed perfect. We had a modest home, decent jobs, and a comfortable life. Sarah was beautiful and charming, with a personality that lit up any room. I found her irresistible when we first met, and I figured that was enough for a happily ever after. But like all stories, things aren't always as they seem. I started to notice changes in Sarah's behavior a few months ago. She became distant, spending long hours at work or going out with friends I had never met before. At first, I told myself it was just her trying to climb the corporate ladder at the marketing firm where she worked. She always had high ambitions, and I admired that about her. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, my instincts began to whisper something darker. There was a night when everything began to unravel. I had come home early from work, hoping to surprise her. Instead, I found her phone buzzing continuously. On the kitchen counter, it was unusual for her to leave it unattended. Out of curiosity, I glanced at the screen and saw a text from a contact named Dr. Mike. The message was flirty and suggestive, something along the lines of "Can't wait to see you again, I miss you." My heart sank. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Dr. Mike? Who the hell was that? I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe it was a colleague or some professional relationship. But as the days went by, my mind raced with possibilities. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I needed to find out more. I began to pay more attention to Sarah's habits. She started dressing differently, wearing outfits I'd never seen her wear at home, and spending more time in the bathroom claiming to get ready for work. I knew she was beautiful, but why the sudden change? It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, and I was helpless to stop it. Then one fateful weekend, while she was out running errands, I made the decision to go through her things. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but I felt I had no choice. I rifled through her purse and found a receipt for a hotel that was only a few blocks away from the office she claimed to be working late at. My heart raced as I read the details. The date matched with the nights she'd been working late. The adrenaline coursing through my veins was both frightening and exhilarating. I was on the verge of discovering the truth, and I needed to confront her. I barely managed to hold back my anger when she walked through the door later that evening. I needed to know what was really going on, and I would have my answers. When I finally confronted her, I thought she would deny it or try to smooth it over with her usual charm. Instead, she flipped the script on me, her expression a mix of annoyance and condescension. "You're being ridiculous, Jake. You're imagining things," she exclaimed, rolling her eyes as if I were being absurd. But I wasn't going to let her deflect. I laid everything out on the table: the texts, the hotel receipt, her changing behavior. I watched the color drain from her face as she tried to come up with excuses. "It's just a work thing. Dr. Mike is a plastic surgeon I work with on campaigns. You're overreacting." Her words felt like daggers. The lies wrapped in a veneer of charm were suffocating. The emotional turmoil within me was overwhelming. I went from disbelief to rage in a matter of seconds. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once. How could she betray me like this? Eventually, she broke down, admitting to meeting Dr. Mike outside of work. She claimed it was just lunch and that it meant nothing, but I could tell from the way she spoke that she was trying to downplay it. The betrayal was real, and the emotional impact of her infidelity was beginning to take hold. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of a long and painful journey. The confrontation left me in a state of shock. As the night wore on, I found myself packing back and forth in the living room, trying to process what had just happened. I felt like I was living in a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. How could Sarah, my wife, my partner, betray me like this? The trust we had built over the years felt shattered, like a glass vase broken into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't sleep that night. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing with Dr. Mike, the plastic surgeon, her laughter echoing in my mind like a cruel taunt. I had always trusted her implicitly, and now that trust felt so misplaced. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how naive I had been to ignore the warning signs. But I also knew I couldn't let her play the victim. I needed to take control of the situation. The next day, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think clearly to devise a plan. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I spent the day researching everything I could about infidelity and the psychological impacts it had on relationships. I needed to understand what I was up against. I read countless articles, stories from others who had gone through similar situations, and I took notes. It was overwhelming, but I was determined to arm myself with knowledge. After hours of anguished deliberation, I decided on a course of action. I wouldn't allow her to manipulate the narrative or make me feel guilty for wanting answers. I needed to confront her again, but this time I would be prepared. I would dig deeper, find out everything I could about her affair and the man she was seeing. I envisioned myself taking control of the narrative, flipping the script on her and showing her that I deserved respect. The following weeks were an emotional roller coaster. I played the part of a dutiful husband, but inside I was seething. I watched her as she went about her routines. She was still trying to convince me that everything was fine and that I was just being paranoid. But I could see the cracks in her facade. The guilt in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking, the defensiveness in her tone when I asked about her day, all of it told me that she was hiding something. I started following her. It felt wrong, but I couldn't help it. I needed to know the truth. I tracked her movements, nodding when she left for work and when she returned. I saw the times she would go out with friends and realized they lined up with when she met Dr. Mike. Each day I saw her slipping further away from me, and it cut deeper than I could have imagined. One afternoon, I followed her to a trendy cafe, one she had mentioned in passing. I parked a few blocks away and watched as she entered. It wasn't long before I spotted Dr. Mike walk in, a smug grin on his face. Sarah's expression lit up like a Christmas tree when she saw him. They exchanged hugs, and my stomach twisted as I imagined what their conversations were like behind closed doors. As they sat down, I could hear snippets of laughter and playful banter. My heart raced with a mix of anger and pain. I snapped a few pictures with my phone, feeling like some kind of private investigator. I wanted evidence that I could confront her with later, something tangible that would force her to face the reality of her actions. I was determined not to let her lie her way out of this anymore. When Sarah returned home later that evening, she seemed unusually upbeat, likely still riding the high of her rendezvous. I braced myself for the confrontation, my heart pounding in my chest. With the photos in hand, I was ready to lay everything out on the table again. But this time I wouldn't let her weasel her way out of the truth. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but cold. She looked at me with surprise, her eyes darting away as if she knew what was coming. "What is it, Jake? Can't this wait? I had a long day," she replied, trying to deflect. "No, it can't wait. I saw you today and I have the pictures to prove it," I said, pulling out my phone and showing her the damning evidence. Her expression shifted from surprise to panic and the color drained from her face. "Jake, please," she began, but I cut her off, feeling a surge of power. "No more lies, Sarah. I want the truth. You've been seeing Dr. Mike, haven't you? How long has this been going on?" Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape route. "It's not what you think, I swear. We were just talking about work." She stammered, but I could see her excuses crumbling under the weight of the evidence. I pressed her harder, and as the confrontation unfolded, I felt something break inside me. The emotional impact of her betrayal was overwhelming. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal. This was no longer about her affair. It was about my self-respect and reclaiming my dignity. I was tired of being the one who had to beg for the truth. As she stumbled through her words, desperately trying to minimize what was happening, I felt the resolve inside me strengthen. I wasn't going to let her lie anymore. I was done being the victim in this scenario. I realized that I had power over my own life and my own choices. It was time to take a stand. As I stood there watching Sarah squirm under the weight of her lies, something inside me shifted. For so long, I had allowed her charm and manipulation to dictate the terms of our relationship. I had been the one making excuses, overlooking the signs, and trying to convince myself that our love was strong enough to survive anything. But now, as I confronted her, I felt the anger morph into clarity. I needed to make a decision about where I wanted my life to go from here. Jake, please, it really isn't what you think. Dr. Mike is just a friend. I swear, she pleaded, her voice trembling. The desperation in her tone was palpable, and part of me wanted to believe her, but deep down I knew better. This wasn't just a casual friendship, this was an affair, plain and simple. Her words felt like a flimsy veil over the truth, and I wasn't buying it anymore. Save it, Sarah. I've seen enough to know that this is more than just a friendship. You've been lying to me, and I'm done accepting your excuses. I deserve better than this, I said, my voice steady but firm. It felt good to finally say those words out loud. She looked crushed, her eyes welling with tears, but I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me into feeling sorry for her. You're overreacting, Jake. I love you, that's the truth. She cried, but her words seemed hollow. The more she spoke, the more I felt the sting of betrayal. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I could feel the foundation of our marriage crumbling beneath us. Do you really think that saying you love me will erase what you've done? How can you claim to love me while you're lying to my face and sleeping with another man? I shot back, my heart racing with the heat of the moment. You've shattered my trust, and I don't know if this can ever be repaired. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity, the weight of her betrayal hanging heavily in the air. I could see the realization dawning on her. She was losing her grip on the narrative. Her eyes darted towards the floor, and I could almost see the gears turning in her mind as she tried to come up with a way to salvage the situation. But I was done being manipulated. I need to think, I said finally, my voice quieter but still resolute. I can't be in this relationship if you're going to treat me like this. I deserve someone who respects me, who values what we have together. I paused, letting my words sink in. I don't know if we can come back from this. That night was a blur. I hardly slept, my mind racing with thoughts of what the future held. I could feel the ache in my chest, the emotional turmoil swirling around me like a vicious storm. I had loved Sarah deeply, but now I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered trust. I found myself thinking about our memories together, the laughter, the shared dreams, the plans we had for the future. All of it felt tainted now. For the next few weeks, I kept my distance. I moved into the guest room, creating a physical barrier that mirrored the emotional distance I felt. Sarah tried to reach out, wanting to talk about what had happened, but I wasn't ready. I needed time to process my feelings, to understand what I wanted from this mess. One evening, I decided to hit the bar down the street from our house. It was a familiar place where I had shared countless laughs with friends, but tonight I was alone. As I nursed a drink, I found myself deep in thought. I had watched others around me, couples laughing together and friends sharing stories, and I felt a growing sense of bitterness creeping in. Why was I the one left in this situation? That's when I met her. Her name was Mia, and she was sitting a few stools down, scrolling through her phone. Something about her caught my eye. Maybe it was the way she carried herself with confidence, or how she seemed genuinely engaged in her own world. I didn't think much of it at first, but when she caught me looking, she smiled and my heart skipped a beat. "Hey there," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "You look like you could use a friend." I hesitated, caught off guard by her openness. "Yeah, I guess you could say that," I replied, forcing a smile. As we struck up a conversation, I found myself opening up about the situation with Sarah, something I hadn't expected to do so soon. To my surprise, Mia listened intently, her expression shifting from sympathy to understanding as I shared my story. "You deserve someone who appreciates you for who you are, not someone who seeks validation from others," she said earnestly. There was something refreshing about Mia. She didn't know me well, but she respected my feelings and validated my pain. Our conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I didn't have to stay stuck in this painful cycle of betrayal. Maybe I could find someone who valued real beauty and self-respect, someone who appreciated the person I was. As I walked home that night, my heart felt a little lighter. I hadn't expected to connect with anyone so soon after everything that had happened, but there was something about Mia that made me want to explore this new connection. I realized that life doesn't stop for heartbreak. It keeps moving forward, and maybe I needed to move forward too. But as with any significant decision, I knew I had to tread carefully. I needed to think about my next steps when it came to Sarah and my marriage. It was clear that I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies and deception, but was I ready to let go completely? I still had a lot to figure out, but I could feel the winds of change beginning to blow. The days turned into weeks, and I found myself navigating a maze of emotions. I was still living in the guest room, and every time I passed Sarah, I could feel the tension in the air. She tried to reach out, attempting to initiate conversations that usually ended with us in a heated argument or dead silence. It was as if we were both trapped in this unresolved standoff. I was torn between the pain of our crumbling marriage and the budding connection I had with Mia, a woman who made me feel seen and valued. I spent more time with Mia after our initial meeting. We began going out for coffee, sharing casual conversations that made me forget the chaos back home. There was something undeniably refreshing about her presence. She was genuine, kind, and didn't shy away from discussing her own life experiences. With her, I felt a sense of ease that I hadn't experienced in a long time. I found myself laughing more and embracing moments of joy, which felt like a distant memory after everything that had happened with Sarah. One evening, as we were sitting at our favorite cafe, Mia turned to me, her expression serious. "You know, Jake, it's great to spend time with you, but I can sense you're still carrying a lot of baggage from your marriage. Are you sure you're ready to explore something new?" Her question hit me hard. I had been enjoying our time together, but the reality of my situation was still looming over me like a dark cloud. "I don't know," I admitted, running my fingers through my hair. "I'm still processing everything that happened. Sarah and I had built a life together, but now it feels like it's all falling apart. I don't want to drag you into that mess." Mia reached across the table, placing her hand on mine. "You deserve to find happiness again, Jake. Don't let the past hold you back. Just be honest with yourself about what you want." Her words resonated with me. I realized that I had to make a decision about my future, not just for myself but also for Sarah. I couldn't keep floating in this limbo of uncertainty. I needed to address the situation head-on and make a choice about whether to fight for my marriage or to walk away. After a few more days of reflection and conversations with Mia, I finally confronted Sarah again. I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. As I prepared for this talk, I had made up my mind to lay everything out on the table once and for all. I needed clarity, and more importantly, I needed closure. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said as I found her in the living room one evening. She turned, her expression a mix of apprehension and hope. "I can't keep doing this. We've been stuck in this cycle for too long, and it's exhausting." "What do you mean?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "I mean that I know what you did. I saw you with Dr. Mike, and I can't pretend that everything is okay. I've been working through my feelings, and I've come to a decision." I paused, the weight of my words hanging in the air. "I can't stay in a relationship where trust has been broken like this. I need to move on." Her face fell, and I could see the panic rising in her eyes. "Jake, please don't do this. I can change. I'll do anything. I love you," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "You say that now, but I can't keep holding on to empty promises. You hurt me, and I can't forgive you right now. I need to put myself first for once," I said, my heart aching but resolute. "Is there someone else?" Sarah's voice quivered, and I could see the realization hit her like a thunderbolt. "Is it that woman from the bar? Is she the reason you're leaving me?" I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of guilt wash over me. "It's not just about her. This is about the fact that I can no longer trust you, that I no longer feel valued in this relationship. I deserve to be with someone who respects me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she struggled to formulate a response. "I messed up, Jake. I made a huge mistake. I don't want to lose you," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "I know," I replied softly, my heart breaking for the memories we once shared. "But I have to think about my own happiness now. I can't keep sacrificing my self-worth for someone who doesn't appreciate it." That night was one of the hardest in my life. As I closed the door to what had been our bedroom, I felt a profound sense of loss. But as I lay in the guest room, I also felt a sense of relief. I was finally taking control of my life, making decisions that prioritized my well-being over the chaos. In the days that followed, I began to make arrangements for our separation. I talked to friends and family, seeking their support as I navigated this painful chapter. I also kept in touch with Mia, feeling grateful for her understanding and positivity. She never pushed me to rush into anything but encouraged me to heal and rediscover myself. Eventually, I filed for divorce. It was a decision that felt monumental, but deep down, I knew it was the right one. I was finally letting go of the toxic patterns that had ensnared me for so long. The emotional weight of the betrayal was still heavy, but I could feel the shackles loosening. As I began to move forward, I reflected on what I had learned through this experience. I realized that self-respect and honesty were paramount in any relationship. I had overlooked red flags in my marriage, convinced that love alone could fix everything. Now, I understood that love must be accompanied by trust, respect, and mutual appreciation. As I stepped into this new chapter of my life, I hoped to embrace a future where I could truly be myself, someone worthy of genuine love and connection. I was determined not to carry the burdens of my past into my new beginnings. Little did I know that Mia would be a significant part of that journey, but for now, it was time for me to focus on healing and reclaiming my joy. The weeks following my decision to file for divorce were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt a mixture of liberation and apprehension. While it was empowering to finally take control of my life, the reality of ending my marriage was daunting. I had been with Sarah for so long, the thought of untangling our lives felt overwhelming. There were shared friends, memories, and a life we had built together that now felt like a distant dream. The first few days after I filed for divorce were particularly tough. I was bombarded with questions from family and friends. Some were supportive, while others were more judgmental, asking if I had really tried hard enough to work things out. Each comment felt like a weight on my shoulders, reminding me of the choices I had made and the pain I had endured. As I navigated the logistics of separation, I also had to deal with the emotional fallout. Sarah wasn't taking the news well. She texted and called frequently, pleading for another chance, insisting that she could change. But deep down, I knew I couldn't go back to a relationship built on broken trust. I needed to move forward, not backward. Mia remained a steady presence through it all. She respected my space but was always there when I needed someone to talk to. We spent time together at simple cafes, went on long walks, and shared stories about our pasts. She never pressured me into defining our relationship, which was refreshing. I had spent too long in a relationship marked by manipulation and deceit. Now I craved authenticity. One evening, as we sat on a bench overlooking a park, I opened up to Mia about my fears. I can't shake the feeling that I'm diving into something too soon. What if I'm just looking for a distraction? I admitted, staring at the ground. Mia turned to me, her expression calm and understanding. It's natural to feel that way, Jake. You've been through a lot, and it's okay to be cautious. But you also deserve happiness. Don't let the past hold you back from experiencing something real. Her words resonated deeply within me. I realized that I had spent so long focused on the pain of my past that I hadn't fully embraced the potential for new beginnings. I was ready to take a leap of faith, not just in my relationship with Mia, but also in my ability to rebuild my life. As the divorce process continued, I found myself feeling lighter. I was slowly reclaiming my identity and learning to enjoy life again. I joined a local gym, took up cooking classes, and even started painting. It felt like I was rediscovering parts of myself that I had neglected for years. The more I invested in myself, the more I realized how much I had lost sight of my own needs during my marriage. As the divorce was finalized, I felt both sadness and relief. I had hoped for a different outcome, one where we could have grown together. But life doesn't always go as planned, and I had to accept that reality. I was free to define my own path, to choose love that was genuine and fulfilling. With the weight of my past finally lifted, I found myself leaning more into my connection with Mia. One weekend, we decided to go on a hike in the mountains. The view from the top was breathtaking, with the horizon stretching endlessly before us. As we sat together, taking in the beauty of nature, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. Mia, I want you to know that I really appreciate you being here for me through all of this, I said, turning to her. You've shown me what it means to be valued, and I can't thank you enough for that. She smiled warmly, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. I'm just glad you're finding your way. You deserve to be happy, Jake. I'm here, and I'm ready to see where this goes when you are. In that moment, I realized that I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. I had worked through the pain of my past and was open to exploring a new relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. It felt exhilarating to finally let go of the past and step into the unknown with someone who genuinely cared about me. But as I sat on that mountaintop, it wasn't just about Mia. It was about me, too. I had learned so much about myself during this tumultuous journey. I understood that self-respect and honesty were essential in any relationship. I had come to terms with the fact that I couldn't control others' actions, but I could control how I responded to them. The following days were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. I focused on building a healthy relationship with Mia while continuing to prioritize my own growth. I wanted to be the best version of myself, someone who could offer love and support while also understanding the importance of boundaries. As the months passed, I could feel my heart slowly healing. The memories of my marriage with Sarah still lingered, but they no longer held the same power over me. I had emerged from the ashes, ready to embrace a future filled with possibilities. And as I continued to rebuild my life, I learned that true beauty lies not only in how we connect with others, but also in how we honor ourselves. I was no longer the man who would accept betrayal. I was a man who valued real beauty and self-respect, and I was determined to nurture that in every aspect of my life. Now, with Mia by my side, I was excited to see where this journey would take me next. As the weeks turned into months, my relationship with Mia blossomed beautifully. I found myself falling for her, not just for her warmth and kindness, but for the way she genuinely encouraged me to be my best self. There was a refreshing honesty in our connection. We communicated openly about our feelings and expectations, and I treasured that so much after the chaos of my past. Mia never rushed me. We took our time, savoring each moment together, learning about one another's dreams and fears. I could feel my heart opening up in ways I hadn't thought possible, and in her company I felt safe. It was a stark contrast to my previous relationship, where I had felt the need to suppress my feelings and doubts. With Mia, there was no pretense. It was just us, real and unfiltered. One evening, we decided to have dinner at a cozy little restaurant by the waterfront. The ambience was perfect, with soft music playing and the gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore. As we shared a bottle of wine and our favorite dishes, I felt an overwhelming sense of contentment. I could see the future stretching out before me like the horizon, full of hope and potential. Mia, I said, looking into her eyes, I want to talk about us. I know we've taken things slowly, and I appreciate that more than you know, but I can see a future with you. You make me want to be a better person. She smiled, her cheeks flushing a soft pink. I feel the same way, Jake. You've shown me how to appreciate the little things in life, and I can't imagine not having you by my side. In that moment, everything felt surreal. I had spent months recovering from my marriage's wreckage, and now I was standing at the precipice of something new and exciting. I was ready to embrace it fully. As we finished dinner, I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of vulnerability and exhilaration. Would you be open to officially being my girlfriend? I want to take this step together, and I believe we can build something beautiful. Her eyes lit up with joy, and I could see the genuine happiness reflected in her smile. Yes, absolutely. I would love that. We toasted to new beginnings, and my heart soared. I knew that every step I had taken away from my past had led me here to this moment with Mia. It felt like the universe had conspired to bring us together when I was ready to embrace the beauty of real love. As the days went by, I continued to discover more about myself and what I wanted out of life. I had worked on my hobbies, strengthened my friendships, and even sought therapy to help navigate the lingering feelings from my divorce. It was empowering to invest in myself fully, and the healing process had become an essential part of my journey. As summer approached, Mia and I began planning a vacation together, a trip to a beautiful beach destination. It was a chance to unwind and enjoy each other's company in a relaxed setting. The excitement of planning our getaway felt invigorating, further solidifying our bond. On the morning of our departure, as we sat on the plane, I took her hand and squeezed it gently. "I can't believe how far we've come in such a short time," I said, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. "Thank you for being so patient and understanding. You've helped me rediscover joy in a way I didn't think was possible." Mia smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "You deserve it, Jake. You've been through so much, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us." When we arrived at our destination, the beauty of the turquoise waters and golden sands took my breath away. We spent our days lounging on the beach, exploring local markets and sharing heartfelt conversations. I felt alive again, and the joy I had lost began to surge back into my life. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we walked hand in hand along the shore. The sound of the waves crashing gently against our feet created a tranquil atmosphere. I stopped and turned to Mia, feeling overwhelmed with emotion. "Mia, I want to say something," I began, my heart racing. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. You've helped me heal and grow in ways I didn't think were possible. I want to build a future with you wherever that may lead us." Her eyes filled with tears as she smiled, her expression reflecting the depth of our connection. "I feel the same way, Jake. You've shown me how to love openly and honestly. I can't wait to see where this journey takes us." In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice by letting go of my past. I had learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and self-respect. I had finally found someone who appreciated me for who I was, flaws and all. As we watched the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The pain of my previous relationship had transformed into a foundation for something new and beautiful. I was ready to embrace the future with Mia, and I knew that together we would create a life filled with love, laughter, and genuine connection. Life had a funny way of working out, and I had learned that sometimes letting go was the first step to finding something infinitely better. I was excited for the adventure ahead, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful.